Hello, my name is Igor Gorlotov, and this is the first in our webinar series on advisory boards for health tech founders. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And today we're going to, in this webinar today, we're going to talk about informal boards or advisory boards. And this is the plan for today. So we'll answer the question, why as a health tech startup you may want to consider building an informal board for you. What's the difference between this informal advisory board versus a more formal governing board? Then we'll talk a little bit about specifics. How do you recruit members? How do you compensate them? And how do you make the most of your advisory board? Finally, I'll share with you a little bit about my company called Advisory5 and about the service that we provide to founders looking to build advisory boards for their health tech ventures. So let's get started. So the first question is, why do health tech startups may want to build an informal board? And there are a number of reasons for that. So you can see the reasons on the screen. It's like credibility boost. If you get the right members, they can help you navigate sophisticated landscape of healthcare. They can help make connections to investors as well as potential employees and customers. And they can facilitate strategic partnerships. And I can share my experience. I'm also involved with a company called Kepler Team. So about a year ago, in August of 2022, we decided we wanted to build an advisory board, and we wanted to accomplish all those things. So Kepler is in the space of helping health tech startups build software. So we wanted representatives of the industry on our board, and these exactly the things that we were looking to get. Like, how do we get more credibility? How do we build strategic partnerships? And how do we acquire customers? So now let's compare what's the difference between an advisory board and a governing board. So the differences start with the purpose. So advisory board, it's something that is more informal. This board will provide non-binding strategic advice, some expertise for the management team. And this is how Kepler Team has been using its advisory board so far. Whereas the governing board typically includes investors, and they have some fiduciary duties. And one of the things that the governing board can do is fire the CEO. Advisory board doesn't have such powers. Composition. So advisory board is something that the CEO puts together for themselves, and these people typically serve at a part-time basis. They're experts, professionals from the network, whereas the governing board includes some key stakeholders. If your company raised funds, you are more likely to have the need to have this governing board representing interests of investors and other stakeholders. There are certain different legal and financial responsibilities that they talked about, and authority and decision-making. So advisory board that is informal doesn't have formal role. It can just provide guidance and advice, whereas the governing board can make some major decisions, like firing the CEO, for example. So how do you recruit members for your advisory board? And again, coming back to Kepler, in my experience with that, we start by identifying specific gaps. Like, is it sales pipeline? Is it investor relations? Is it compliance issues? In our case, we wanted to focus on sales pipeline, and we wanted to build relationships with some investor groups on the Kepler side. So in your case, it can be different, but it's good to figure out what are the specific people you're looking to get on your board so that you don't get with a very homogeneous board. There are certain characteristics that you may want to look for. You need board members who have integrity and reputation, who are well connected, who will challenge you. They will not be just yes people. But most importantly, and this is the hardest one, these are the people who will show up to your meetings. They have to be reliable. And ideally, even though not always possible, is to have at least a few people who have done what you're trying to do. So if you're looking to build a $10 million business, having someone who has done it would be an awesome asset. What you want to avoid is people who have a self-focused agenda. They're looking to sell you something. They have their own goals. They're inexperienced. They have a big ego. Or the board that you're putting together is everybody looks the same. So you don't want a board like that. So once you figure out what are the specific profiles, Kepler, we wanted a technologist, we wanted a sales expert, we wanted someone with experience in venture-backed. To figure out who you are looking for, you need to articulate what's the value proposition to your advisors. And sometimes startups undervalue what they built. But when you are at a stage that you're ready to recruit a board, you've done something great. And even this opportunity to be an advisor for you is something not to be trifled with. So you can come in from a position of strength, not just with an extended hand. Oh, please advise me. You've created a truly great opportunity for the right person to come in and assist you. Once you figured out your value proposition, and we'll talk about compensation in a bit, you need to figure out, where do I find those advisors? There are some places to look for those. Referrals from your network will probably be the best. But also there are groups like HIMSS, online communities where you can start asking for referrals or just approaching people who you think would be great for your board. And then there is a process, of course. You need to pre-qualify those advisors. So you figure out, do they match your profiles that you've identified? Then interview those people. Figure out, are they willing to commit? Are they willing to show up to the board meetings? And finally, there is some formal process in place where you have to recruit them. They need to sign the paperwork. Ideally, you also sign an NDA with them, even probably prior to the interview, so that you can have that candid conversation. And this is how you build your board. Compensation is a separate issue that I wanted to touch on. So there are different ways to compensate your board members. It can be monetary or non-monetary compensation. So for Kepler, we decided for a combination of an annual retainer and per meeting fee. So it was a couple thousand per year for annual retainer, which meant that advisors would be available to the management team in between meetings. They would help with specific initiatives, help with specific connections, but we also offered to pay per meeting fee. And then some organizations choose to offer commission for business development. So if a board member makes an introduction that leads to a sale, you can compensate the board members as well. For earlier stage companies, it's possible for advisors to donate time, to request a reciprocal board service for their nonprofit of choice, or if it's a CEO for their company. Some companies go for equity and stock options that may not be given at once, but they accrue over time. So as the board member works with you, at the end of a certain period, they get a certain amount of equity or options. One of the challenges and difficulties with stock is that once you give equity of your company, this advisor stays on, whereas the needs of startups typically change, and what you may need initially may no longer be applicable 6 or 12 months down the line. And there's only so much of your company you can give. So this is something to consider. How much flexibility do you want to maintain as you build your advisory board? And here I want to talk about leveraging your board. So you want to make sure that you have regular meetings. Those can be quarterly, but in some cases, a more frequent cadence, if you can accomplish that, would be beneficial, like monthly cadence. You need to be clear what exactly do you want so that people can help you. Each discussion, each session with your board needs to have a very focused agenda. And then advisors can be mentors for your management team and for your key employees. They can help you with challenging situations. Like at Kepler, there was a big challenge when 2 major clients left. An advisory board was instrumental in figuring out, okay, so we're in this situation. How do we deal with it? It's like moral support, encouragement, and also very tangible advice on how to deal with this crisis. And finally, your advisory board members become your promoters. They can talk about your business. They can put your business on their LinkedIn profiles. So it boosts your reputation and it helps you get the word out. So this is not a comprehensive list, but this is a great starting point on how an advisory board can be truly helpful to you. Now I want to talk about the business that I have created called Advisory5. Because as you've seen from what I shared, building an advisory board is typically a fairly sophisticated process. It requires a lot of planning, preparation. For us at Kepler, it took about 6 months and thousands of dollars to put the advisory board together. And I feel there is a lot of friction in this process, and it's hard, therefore, for especially early stage startups to go through. That's why I came up with this idea of Advisory5, where you get an advisory board on demand. So how we do it? So you apply to Advisory5. We ensure that you're a great fit. So we work with health tech companies, or companies that are connected with health, wellness, well-being. Then we assemble an advisory board for you. So we have a community of advisors, and we share your venture with that community, and they self-select to be on your advisory board. So they choose you, but you get to approve them, and they become key players on your journey. And then there is no hassle. There is no negotiation. We handle the logistics, engagement, and it's a monthly cadence for your meetings with your advisors. And there is a lot of flexibility because you can change this team. So you gain this team rapidly. You get the same level or caliber of people, or close to the same caliber of people as if you selected them yourself. But we do this for you, and you get the flexibility of tweaking your team, so we can make adjustments, and you get access not just to advisors who are advising you, but to the broader community of advisors who are part of Advisory5. You also get connected to other ventures that we have in the program. For example, right now we have H3 Pelvic Therapy Systems, and this company recently got awarded a $400K grant, and we will do a pilot with Duke University in 2024. So there are some cool startups that are leveraging Advisory5 for themselves. It's not free, so we are charging ventures for the service, but you are not paying anything to advisors. We are serving as a concierge or facilitator of those connections. So we're charging you a $300 per month fee, and we do all the work connected with assembling the advisory board, managing the advisory board for you, and giving you the flexibility so that you can focus on leveraging your board and scaling your business. So if you have any questions, please check out our website, advisory5.com. Reach out, and whether you do it with us or without us, consider building an advisory board. That's something that I'm sure will make your startup more successful. Okay. Check out our webinar series. So we're doing this every Wednesday, or most Wednesdays at 8:30 Eastern Time. So you can join live and be part of the discussions and also watch those recordings. So see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.